ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. Friend to citizens in the majority or enabler of citizens in the minority. We all need someone to fight for us at times, but have rights and liberties gone too far? Transgender persons in single-sex bathrooms, micro cameras to catch crimes, same-sex marriage legislation, gender equality, equal pay, prayer in public. Joining me is Jane Henniger, the current executive director, and Katie Blair, the director of advocacy for the ACLU of Indiana, on CounterPoint with Gerard McClendon.
Dispute that you were born a boy?
Do I dispute that I was born a boy? I was born a baby who was assigned male at birth. I did not identify or live my life as a boy. As soon as I had enough agency in my life to grow up, I became who I am. And this did not start at 18 when I went to Thailand to have surgery. It started when I was 6 years old, and my parents saw me for who I was and allowed me to live my life. That's a lot of nuance, and it's hard to communicate that in 30 seconds or even in a 140-character tweet. That's why I'm here right now. I want this to be a learning and teaching moment for all of us, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. Just as much as you were vilified, or as you say from my supporters, that's actually my community, who are vilified every single day and misunderstood and drove into isolation.
Thank you for joining us on CounterPoint. Hey, give me a call at 844-777-9311. Hey, you can always tweet me at GerardMC and send Facebook comments to CounterPoint Gerard. Joining me at the CounterPoint today, former Indianapolis Deputy Mayor and current Executive Director of the ACLU of Indiana, Jane Henniger, and Director of Advocacy, Katie Blair. Ladies, welcome to the CounterPoint.
Thanks for including us.
Man, I'm really excited about today's show because the ACLU seems to always be in the news when something controversial comes up, and when that controversy has to do with people's rights. First and foremost, we're coming to you, Katie, but first I'm going to deal with Jane first. Let's talk about the definition, but no, let's even be more basic than that. What is the ACLU?
We're a nonprofit organization that's been around nationally almost 100 years. We've been in Indiana over 60 years, and very simply put, we hold government accountable to the Constitution. Our incredible constitutional democracy gives certain rights and powers to the government, but reserves a whole bunch of rights and liberties to citizens, to individuals when they're in the United States. And our job for almost the last 100 years has been to make sure that those rights and liberties mean something, that they're not just on the paper. So whether that's your freedom of speech, freedom of religion, protections against cruel and unusual punishment, right to trial, protection from unreasonable search and seizure, we work on all those spectrums, freedom from discrimination, your right to fair treatment by the government. All of those are rights and liberties that we work very hard to protect.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'm looking at a quote here. It says, the ACLU, through steadfast dedication to the principles of liberty, has righted the course of this country many times. I am honored to have the opportunity to lead the ACLU of Indiana through the tough work of protecting and defending individual liberties guaranteed to all in our state by the U.S. and Indiana constitutions. That's your quote.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
You know, so you're serious about this stuff. You know, let's look at one basic civil liberty. Tell me right now, Jane, give me one example of a civil liberty that I have the right to have and know and be protected by.
Well, I'll give you an example of one that's in the news and has been in the news in various forms over the last couple of years, and that's the right to equal protection under the law. So that's a liberty that extends to everyone in the United States. It protects you against discrimination on any number of bases. So we all know that it protects you against discrimination on the basis of race, on national origin, on gender, on on whether you're based on the basis of your sexual orientation or your gender identity. Those are all instances in which the fundamental guarantee of equal protection under the law is that I have the same standing, equal access to services, to goods that every other American has.
So, Just because my skin is a little darker than you two ladies' skin, I still have equal protection under the law? It wasn't,
Right,
it hasn't always
right,
been that way though, right?
Well, and you raise a good point, which goes to another one of our bottom line taglines at the ACLU, which is we're here because your rights always need to be protected. Rights never are won. They always have to be protected and re-won and re-protected.
This is interesting. Katie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to say our tagline is freedom can't protect itself.
Ooh.
Yes.
Freedom cannot protect itself. So freedom needs an advocate.
Right.
Yes, that's where we
Freedom
put it.
needs a soldier fighting for it. And here, and lo and behold, we have Katie Blair. We have advocacy, right?
Yes.
Director of advocacy. Katie, what do you do at the ACLU?
Oh, I do all sorts of really fun things around the state. So I kind of boost up our work in the many different areas that Jane mentioned. So we have a whole legal side that goes and protects things in the courtroom, and I do the stuff kind of the boots on the ground work. So I work with coalition partners on racial justice or LGBT rights or reproductive rights, and I represent us there, and I serve as the expert in civil liberties.
Okay, let's talk about this when it comes to advocacy and rights, Katie. We just showed a clip of Janet Mock.
Yes.
Janet Mock, transgender female, who has written a wonderful book called Redefining Realness. She's also been a correspondent for MSNBC. Very, very strong advocate and a person who we can look at as almost quintessential when it comes to transgender movement. How do you advocate for a person who's transgender? What might be a thing that you would do at the ACLU to advocate?
Absolutely. Well, this past legislative session, we worked to pass a non-discrimination bill that would protect people based on their sexual orientation and gender identity under Indiana law, but unfortunately that did not pass. But we lobbied on that, and we also, organized the state to try to move that legislation.
Just because you may lose some battles, it doesn't always mean you lose the war.
No.
Because the voice sometimes is more important than the actual legislation being changed or even the finish. This is why it's so important, and I want both of you to jump in here. It's so important, regardless of whether you think you can win the fight or not. You got to be in there and you got to swing. You got to throw some punches.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And we advance it, a few yards at a time. We may lose some yardage, but we're always on a forward movement. And the history of civil rights in this country has shown that there are wins and losses. Fortunately, the wins over the last 100 years have been greater than the losses. So just take, for example, the last legislative session that Katie mentioned. We had a battle for proactive, comprehensive rights that are parallel to the existing civil rights for other protected classes under Indiana law. We lost that battle. We'll fight it again another day. But we won another battle. We had a bathroom bill.
And we beat that back, and it wasn't passed. We also had another version of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act come back up.
What happened with the bathroom bill, though?
It didn't even get a hearing.
Right. And it was essentially the same bill that got passed in North Carolina that we're all hearing about, that's now the subject of court cases, of business boycotts that would prevent individuals from using the bathroom that is consistent with their gender identity.
Okay, why didn't it get a hearing, Katie?
Well, it didn't get a hearing. It really wasn't taken seriously at the State House. And also, I mean, after the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of last year, after all of the kind of groundswell around that, legislators didn't really want to touch that kind of legislation, didn't want that, back at the State House.
And what's interesting is how when we have a presidential election year and even when we look at every 2-year cycle of representatives in Congress and senators being elected, you'll see people's politics just change wickedly based on lobbyists, based on their constituents, and based on whether they think that an issue, a civil liberties issue, can get them reelected or get them thrown out of office. You know, we're also seeing this line drawn in the sand of what municipalities on the city level, as well as what regional and state levels are in terms of being far to the right or far to the left. The ACLU is not a political organization, but it's right in the midst of political issues. How do you navigate that, Jane?
Well, I mean, we feel privileged to do this work. And
Because some people would say you guys are far, well, it depends on the issue.
That's right.
Whether you're far,
right,
you're too
yes.
liberal, so
Right.
you're a Democrat.
Right.
You guys are leftist,
Right.
but it may be an issue of conservatism where it may get flipped.
Right, we're just consistent with the Constitution. We adhere to the words of the Constitution, to Supreme Court precedent on how they've interpreted the Constitution, and we feel we're consistent. You're absolutely right, that depending on the election, the winds of political fortune, different issues get raised. So, and I think the issue around who can use which bathroom that has put transgender individuals in the middle of that debate is a great example. And this isn't an issue. In 18 states across the country, individuals can use the bathroom that comports with their gender identity, and no incidents have occurred. Over 200 cities have had the same protections, including Indianapolis for over the last 10 years. There's never been an instance where someone used these laws to do harm. And if someone goes into a bathroom to do some harm, there's laws against that.
Yes. So we're going to talk about those laws after we go to this break, and after we take a look at some social media comments. Are your beliefs sacred and immovable, or can the rights of others allow you to be fair and just? Here are a few thoughts from you in We the People. Let's talk about micro cameras in your neighborhood. Cheryl Fritz says, Big Brother is already watching, Gerard, but to go this far as to have micro cameras in your neighborhood is too much. A. James Powell says, as long as cameras are in public places, I have no problems with it. Michael Bamford, I would allow cameras just outside and in public buildings. Let's look at the transgendered bathroom use issue. Arista Slate says, at first I was thinking just let them go to whatever bathroom of the sex they identify with. But after a conversation at the beauty shop, I'm not sure. Nike McCoy says, simply have a unisex bathroom as an option. Monica Ingram, Patrick says, I think a person should use the restroom of their genitalia. Sherwana Barron, if the transgender person looks like a woman, Gerard, it doesn't matter. But if he looks like a dude, I would feel very uncomfortable. Joe Gomez-Stagel says, at my age, when I use the bathroom, I don't have any time to think about it. I just want to make sure there is a stall or a urinal available, get the job done, wash my hands, and get out of there. Jackie Weinberg says, how about everyone just worry more about flushing and washing their hands? Brenda Ellerson says, all of the people who are worried about men dressing up as women and going into the bathroom with your little girl, how about those same men in there with your little boys and no one said anything? Jay Lewis says, use the bathroom based on your birth certificate sex. How did this world start going down this road? Man, that's how you voice your concerns, and We the People. Call and leave me a message at 844-777-9311. Tweet me at GerardMC and send Facebook comments to CounterPoint Gerard. We'll be back shortly. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on CounterPoint.
I mean, if the media are institutions of private power, we can be quite sure that they're going to have a particular take on things. They're going to give a picture of the world which, by and large, reflects the interests of their owners and their advertisers and other centers of power in the society. And that means that the attitudes and points of view and interests of the general public are going to be marginalized. And I think the answer to that is not, regulation, it's democratization.
Welcome back to CounterPoint. Hey, we're having a wonderful discussion with the ACLU of Indiana. We've got Jane Henniger with us, and we also have Katie Blair. Just watched the clip from Noam Chomsky, the great historian and linguist, talking about civil liberties and talking about how if we don't have civil liberties, we don't have a democracy. Let's talk about the Bill of Rights and constitutional law. So I'm a professor. I have to teach school law. I have to basically go through, of course, Black's Law Dictionary. I also have to go through this textbook by the Alexanders called American School Law. And so the laws within a school sometimes mimic, but at other times are totally different than the laws outside of a school. But let's talk about the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment seems like such an easy premise. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peaceably assemble, freedom to petition the government, and we also have freedom of religion, all right? Seems like such a simple premise on the surface, but what I've been noticing lately is how freedom of religion and the LGBT movement are almost synonymous at times, because you'll have people on the far right, well, not always on the far right, saying, I don't want my rights violated. If I don't want to be in the same restaurant as a gay person, I should have that right. Gays are in the minority. Transgender people are in the minority. Why should they tread on my rights? Talk to me, ladies. I mean, this is a serious issue. This bathroom issue, this is unbelievable what it's causing in this country. What does the ACLU have to say about that?
Let's put the bathroom issue just to the side, because I do think that it's a created issue. I think it was created, going back to your earlier comments about political campaigns and election year politicking. As I mentioned, there are no instances of individuals using transgender protections to do harm in bathrooms. Just no examples of that. But it's an effective wedge issue, because people don't have a lot of information, and so this is a new issue to them, and they haven't thought a lot about it. So their initial reactions, they need time to understand the facts. But I wanted to go to about the First Amendment and the freedom of religion, and the tension sometimes throughout the Bill of Rights, throughout our Constitution, that can create a tension between individuals' competing rights. So you mentioned that individuals said that their freedom of religion, that free exercise is being infringed upon, and tension with the other individuals' rights not to be discriminated against. And that's not a new tension. That occurred during the Civil Rights era. There, in the earliest drafts of the civil rights laws that now we wouldn't touch for the world, the early drafts thought about putting an exemption for religious objection to civil rights protections.
Yes.
And at the time, it was deemed no. When there may be a tension between these rights, but in this instance, when it's a case of protecting people from discrimination, that trumps the religious liberty in this instance.
Oh, so the key is to make sure that no one is discriminated against. That trumps everything.
Well,
So do you think that some discriminations are manufactured? Like if a person says, "Wait a minute, man, I feel discriminated against. The ACLU is jumping down my back, telling me what I should and should not believe. Don't I have rights too?" Jane Henniger?
So one thing, only the government can violate your constitutional rights. So you can tell me to shut up, my government can't tell me to shut up.
Got you.
Right? So it's only government action that is limited by the Constitution. I think that the second thing is that we have to understand that these competing rights and the right, especially, for example, the right of equal protection under the law, it doesn't pop out of nowhere, and it's not as matter of someone on a whim can claim discrimination and then boom, they get full protections by our courts. Historically, discriminated against groups are the ones protected most fiercely by our equal protection laws. So there's different, you hear sometimes when they talk about court cases, different levels of scrutiny. And, if it's just treating two different groups differently and they're not neither of them are historically discriminated against groups, that the courts are going to great deference to government action in that case. But when we're talking about groups who have clear, long standing histories of discrimination, basis of race, certainly that's true of the LGBT community, sex, those categories, everybody understands.
So those are the rule, not the exception?
Because
they've got the long history?
Right, so there the Supreme Court has interpreted their equal protection really is, we have to apply it hard, and government has to meet a high bar to show that these laws are necessary and they're permissible despite some discriminatory impact.
Katie, you had a comment, I think, earlier. I mean, I don't know if it was advocacy or not.
When we were speaking about bathroom panic, which is what we call it, because that's exactly what it is. While it is.
Is it really panic, though? Come on
Yeah,
now,
there's
Katie.
no instances.
I don't want a woman in my washroom unless it's a unisex washroom. I like being a man. What does that mean? There's different definitions and connotations. But when I go to a men's room, I don't want to see Katie or Jane in that room. But I want my privacy to be a man in that room.
Well, what I would say to you, and what I am saying to you, is that a transgender man is a man, and a transgender woman is a woman.
Gotcha.
And that is what it is.
Okay.
And
it's not, and body parts have nothing to do with this. It's a mental state of gender identity.
It's your gender identity.
And so, see, this is why the work that the two of you do is so monumental. I respect you on a high level because I would not want to work in your office. I would not want to take the phone calls. This is beyond work. This is a ministry. What you guys do. Come on, Katie.
Yeah.
You know.
So what I was going to say though is that it having to be thrust into the limelight, having the transgender community thrust into the limelight without is not great. But what is great is that we are learning more about the stories of transgender people. We're hearing from transgender families, families of transgender people, and these are stories that haven't really, been widely told, and we're being able to really educate ourselves and the public on it. And I'm proud of the work that we're doing to do that, and I'm hopeful for the future.
Yeah. I mean, we feel privileged, again, to do this work. It is often controversial. That makes it timely, that makes it urgent, that makes it matter every day that we go into the office to do this work. And it's not just issues, right? It's not just catchphrases. I mean, as Katie just suggested, these are people's lives.
Yeah.
The work that we do, if you could hear the individuals who thank us, it's that makes it all the difference. And the transformation in their lives that can occur by being treated as a fellow equal human being, regardless of the challenges that people have across our civil liberties challenges.
Yeah.
And that's worth it for us to help them live full, protected, healthy, free lives.
Let me tell you what's interesting as we close the show here. Before I knew transgender females, I was clueless and very insensitive. Now that I know transgender females, I'm more sensitive to the issue, and I appreciate the work that the two of you do. Thank you so much for being on CounterPoint. If you feel your rights have been violated or deleted from your pursuit of happiness, a call to the ACLU may be in order. Being an American is about being free to express yourself in a way that is open, just, and truly American. We say thanks to our guests, Jane Henniger from the ACLU and Katie Blair Call 844-777-9311. Tweet me at GerardMC and comment on Facebook at CounterPoint Gerard. Hey, I need you to stay positive, keep your head up, and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a great week.